everyone. Welcome to this week's Aha Moments with myself, Adrienne Lopez, the Integrative Awareness Coach. And I'm early today. I don't know where my brain was yesterday, but I was having a challenge. I wrote 4 o'clock. I have to be somewhere at 4 o'clock. I meant 3, and now I'm late. But I'm getting myself together, um, just preparing for the holiday, mostly just to feel normal. Sometimes those ritual practices, those things that we do that can make us have a sense of like order and a sense of belonging and a sense of like something to focus on, really. I was feeling super sad yesterday, to tell you the truth, after hearing the news about Twitch, Stephen Twitch Boss, I think that's his name. I didn't really watch him or know him that well, but I did see him on Ellen from time to time, and he's just such a warm soul. Um, at least that's the feeling that I received from just watching him through the airwaves. And mostly it was just unbelievable. This isn't the first time, and it may not be the last time, but there's somebody that looks so happy and so successful. And I even hate to say that because it's just kind of obnoxious to say, because we don't know what's going on behind closed doors with people ever. So, yeah, so just sending prayers and light to his family as they move through their holiday with that loss. It's just heartbreaking, and all the stories that we don't hear, of all the people that aren't famous. Mental and emotional health is serious business, and you know, this is kind of off the topic from my original intention of what I wanted to share today, which was beliefs and mysticism and alchemy. Um, but if you're in pain and struggling, it's usually because of your mind. Your mind is telling you something brutal, so brutal that it justifies wanting to end a life, wanting to extinguish a light. And that is the power of belief. And it's a lack of perspective. So, as my work as a hypnotherapist, we do a lot of reframe. And so that is bringing in resource from the infinite supply, which is in each person. It is this imaginative, like the imagination is medicine, because the imagination creates all your beliefs, all the stories that we tell about life and who we are. And when we run into a dead end or a problem, it's because I was trying to remember how somebody said it the other day. Let me see if I wrote it down because I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's 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 what I'm talking about. So I don't know where I put it. I collect quotes all the time and then I forget where they are. So, anyhow, I guess I'll just paraphrase it. Um, he says, no, I can't find it. So I'll just paraphrase it. Um, he says something like, it's not that human beings lack the ability to see, but they lack access to a wider perspective. Something like that. I probably butchered it. It sounded so much more eloquent when he said it, so forgive me. But the point I'm trying to get across is that um, often the mind gets put in a corner and can't see a way out. That doesn't mean that there isn't a way out. It just has lost touch with its with imagination. And so it's kind of related in a way because as a mystic and an alchemist. I was thinking this week about this um, as a way of life for me, growing up with people in my family that struggled with mental health and emotional health. And I don't think that my family was unique or is unique. I think most Americans and many societies, not just in America, suffer with accessing and expressing and having the space to have their emotions held. Um, and if we don't have a place to share that, it gets shoved under and it doesn't go away just because it gets pushed into our unconscious mind. It just goes underground, just waiting to come out in usually the most um, pleasant times and situations when we have our guard down, when we are our most vulnerable, our weakest. That those unexpressed emotions come up, and sometimes we're just taken away with them, and we're like, oh my gosh, I don't know why I said that or why I did that. It's like going unconscious. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. I'm sure you have if you're human, but but really, this week, as I was giving a healing to a friend, um, and this isn't new, you know, this isn't new. I've always had this gift. I just didn't have the people around me that could recognize the gift. Maybe it didn't seem like a gift to them. Maybe, you know, growing up, we assume that everyone sees the world that we do, but they just don't. And that can add to a lot of miscommunication because people have assumptions about the way the world is. And when we meet people that have different assumptions or different ideas or different beliefs about the world is, that can create a conflict of reality, like whose reality is going to win. And that can be unfortunate and create disconnection for people. So um, this gift has been ability to stand in two worlds, one in this everyday practical world and then one foot in the mystic world where I have had a close connection with spirit all of the time speaking to me. And I didn't share a lot of it. Sometimes I did. Not everyone's able or open to receive that. But it was just kind of like my own special, my own inner reality with spirit, and uh, and I was very drawn to um, where it was drawn to me because that's where I found my first meditation teacher who was a Sufi, and I didn't know a lot about. I didn't really know at the time a lot about Sufism, but it resonated greatly with me because it's a mystic tradition. It's based on the belief that the divine, the source, the intelligence is always communicating with us. Um, all around us, like the material world, is spirit dancing with us, speaking to us, making itself known. And so that really resonated with me because that was my nature. And so taking that level of mysticism into my work of coaching and doing healing work, whether that's energy healing or um, hypnosis um, or life coaching, um, I'm pulling on my connection to that invisible world. And and some people have access to that invisible world. And actually, we all do, right? I was at the bookstore today doing some Christmas shopping, and I saw a book like um, "Become Psychic," and I thought it was funny because I'm like, we already are, we already are. We're connected in the field, and once we open ourselves up, we become more and more available to it. So, as I was saying, just this week I was doing a healing for one of my friends who wasn't feeling well. And when I was doing her energy healing, I began to see the image of Mother Mary, um, which is an iconic image. We've seen it, most people have seen it. Um, and I saw all of often how she's represented with all these layers of like light around her, and I never really realized it before that, but they were. I mean, I didn't realize it like I realized it at that moment. I'm like, oh, those are all the layers of her aura that I'm seeing right now for my friend. And I didn't know it at the time, consciously. But my friend was wrapped in a blue, like a navy blue blanket that had little stars all over it while I was doing this healing. And the next day, after I did the healing, I came home and I had some memories come up on Facebook, and it was like, oh, it's the Feast of Guadalupe today. I think that was the 13th. And so I did a post on her, on the mother, on the mothering energy, and I pulled up an image of her, and she wears a cape of the stars, right? A midnight blue cape with stars all over it. And I was like, oh, wow, that looks like the exact blanket that my friend was wearing yesterday. And so all of these coincidences, all of these symbols and signs that arise are, just for me personally, are just like little hellos from the unseen world that, yes, your experience is valid. Yes, your experience is true. Yes, the work you're doing is grounded in love and transformation and alchemy. And really, the word alchemy, as the ancient alchemists were referring, is turning the heavier energies, the densified energies, which are often a thought that turns into a belief or a construction about how the world really is, and it becomes inflexible, and then it becomes limiting into our self image and what we see is possible for ourselves and others. So, really, it's like anything that's any densified belief system that is out of an alignment of us expanding into our full potential um, becomes a limitation and not necessarily an expression of our truest self. And so alchemy is the practice of taking that densified or leaden, heavy energy and transforming it back to life energy or luminous life energy. I don't know if you've heard of the experiments that they've done where they're doing the measuring the um, the energy of plants and trees and people, and they can measure the uh, luminosity, the photons, the light photons coming off um, of life, whatever form we're choosing, and that those light photons are energy turned into dense form, and that we already have the blueprint in our DNA. But because when we come into the world, there's so much misinformation, misinforming us, like actually forming our lives and our bodies. Um, so many myths and stories and limiting belief systems that we can easily get stuck in unproductive ways of being that don't allow us to experience the fullness of our humanity and our expansiveness and um, our grand sovereign nature. And clearly we see that when somebody chooses to end their lives, that they have closed themselves off to possibility itself. And so um, at this time of year when we're just days away from Christmas, where we're celebrating the light of the world that came into the world to remind us of possibility itself, to remind us that we contain infinite wisdom, the light and the truth and the way, and that we have access to that internally through to the invisible world that contains all of the information that we could require for this journey. So um, I just wanted to share those ideas with you for whatever they're worth. I know that Christmas can be a happy time for people. It can also bring up a lot of sadness and loneliness because people might be alone or not being sharing the holidays with their family. And so I just wanted to remind you that the Mass of Christ, the celebration of the birth, I was thinking today that, I personally physically haven't had children, but I have rebirthed myself 1,000 times in my lifetime. I've resurrected myself into a new version of myself that I needed to step forward in my life. And if the Christ isn't an example of that ability for life to regenerate itself, to to find the um, unique medicine that is required, that's already inside of us, then I don't know what it's about. So I just wanted to send my most heartfelt holiday wishes for you. I know it's still early, not quite the holiday per se, but we're in that, we're coming up on it, let's just say. And I will be back on the 21st again. But until then, I just wanted to wish you a peaceful, um, grounded, um, self-loving, um, holiday, whatever that looks for you, the holy day. And I was shopping and, as I mentioned, partaking in the consumerism, and I saw a card that said "Holy shit," and I loved it because it reminded me that even the shit in our lives, like, I can't believe this is happening to me, or oh my God, this again, or how am I going to get out of this, is holy. It is a part of you expressing the divinity of who you are. You might not be able to see it, you might not be able to feel it, it might not look like it might not smell like it, but your soul is infinitely wise, and you came here with everything you need to maneuver and navigate even the crisis in your life. And so one thing I like to say is, will we learn Will we gift ourselves the ability to create transformation in our lives without crisis? When will we learn? The MO, the modus operandi of most people, in order to change, they have to create some crazy crisis from the outside in order to let go, in order to move on, in order to do that thing that they've been wanting, but they've just been too frightened. But what if we could give ourselves the gift of creation without having a crisis? We could do it out of love. And that's really what Christmas represents to me. The love of ourselves, giving ourselves the love that we need to accept, to hold our experience, to be with it. And this reminded me of a conversation I had earlier this week with a group of coaches. He works on cars, and he was saying in the past, when I was trying to get out these bolts, I would, go right in and get frustrated and try to undo these bolts, and then the top of the bolt would break off, and then I would be in a really bad position. But he said, I've learned just to put the oil on the bolts and then walk away. And then the oil takes its time, maybe 6 hours or 8 hours to seep into the bolts, so they can loosen by themselves. And then I just walk up and they just come out. And I don't have to go through all that frantic pulling and tugging and forcing and then having it not work anyway. And so I really liked that metaphor, because as I was doing my healing this week, I was thinking about the spirit and how when we anoint ourselves alchemically with the oil of love and self-acceptance and peace, that we are preparing ourselves to release all of the rusty old energy that has been keeping us stuck and unable to move forward, and that we get to be patient and we get to be kind and we get to know that the oils of love and self-acceptance and peace are doing the work inside of us. And that the more we rest into that, the more the layers of density and dysfunction and um, all that yucky stuff begins to pop faster, more rapidly. If you're committed to doing the work, if you have the faith and the trust to know that the promise of the Christ consciousness, which, you don't have to be a Christian to participate or to know that the Christ consciousness is pure unconditional love. And that is heaven on earth, right? And some people say, well, it's a nice story, but that's not really available to me. I don't know. Maybe it's your true nature just waiting for you to realize itself. And in order to do that, you're going to have to let go of all the layers of crap, rust, stuckness that has been covering it up. And that when you begin to truly choose yourself, like you would all the other people that you admire and that inspire you, that you're that as well. And that that is the greatest gift, right, of all. And we can't buy it in a store, can't buy it on Amazon. It's already in you. You just have to be able to receive the gift. All right. I think I'll leave it there for now, love bugs. Thanks for stopping by. It's been a pleasure seeing you. And I'd love to hear your comments hear your feedback. If you stop by, leave an emoji, say hi. If something here resonated with you, share it. I appreciate it. All right, I'll see you next week. Good seeing you. Bye for now.